Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to another great Lunch and Learn. I'm your host, Alexa Francis House, here with the Purchasing Division. And today we are going to hear from Broward County's property appraiser, Marty Kiar. So I'm going to go ahead and ask Marty to come on camera and kind of wave. I'm sure you guys have seen his picture on, if you're a homeowner or around here in the county, I'm sure you've seen him out and about. There's Marty.
Hello, everybody. Thank you.
And let me just read a little bit about him for those of you who don't know. He currently serves as the Broward County Property Appraiser. As a lifelong resident of Broward, Marty went to school here and attended Nova Southeastern Law School. Marty served in the Florida House of Representatives and on the Broward County Commission before being elected as property appraiser in 2016. So almost 10 years, Marty.
It has. Oh my goodness. I cannot believe it.
Wow. Marty is married to his beautiful wife, Kelly. They have two daughters, Brienne and Cami, as well as three cats, Rocky, Maggie, and Toby.
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and turn off my camera so that you guys can go ahead and focus on Marty. Marty's going to tell us a little bit about Property Appraiser's Office, what they do, who they are, some interesting tidbits that, those of us who live here in the county may be interested in. And as always, if you have any burning questions, feel free to go ahead and type those in the chat and I'll be monitoring them for Marty. All right, without further ado, Marty here.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Alexa. I really appreciate it. And I hope you all are doing fantastic. I'm so excited to be here today. First of all, thank you all so much for what you do for Broward County. I'm a little biased. I think we live in the greatest county on the face of the earth. As I was telling Alexa before, I was born here, and one day I'll be resting peacefully here. I am never leaving. And the work you all do for the people of our community is just fantastic. But before I just quickly talk about how our office helps our Broward County public, I want to thank you. You all have given me the great privilege to serve in a lot of elected capacities. I got to serve in the Florida House of Representatives. I got to be on the county commission. I got to be the county's mayor. And since 2017, I've gotten to be your Broward County property appraiser. And I can tell you of all the elected jobs I've ever had, this one I love the most by far because you get to interact with everyone in the county, and the nature of the job just lets you help people. And here's a big difference. When you serve in the Florida House of Representatives, it's awesome. I mean, you get to debate education and healthcare. You get to try to make the state better. But sometimes you feel so far away from the people, you always get to meet the people you're helping. When you serve on the county commission or you're the mayor of Broward County, that is a cool job. I mean, more people live here than 13 states. And when you serve in those capacities, you all know what Broward County can do. It does a lot for the people. You can make mass transit better, the airport better, the port better. You can make Broward County very strong economically statewide. But sometimes when you serve on the county commission or you're the mayor of the county, you still feel so far away from the people, you don't always get to meet the people you're helping. Property appraiser, I think, is the greatest elected job alive because your job is basically constituent services all day, every day. You help people with their property. You help seniors and veterans. It's the type of job that when you go home, you put your head in your pillow. You feel like you did something really good that day. So I appreciate so much you all allowing me to do it. I was technically reelected in 2024. So you're kind of stuck with me until 2028 anyways. But it is just an awesome job. And let me kind of tell you what we do. There are a few main functions to our office. The first function is we determine the value of every piece of property in Broward County for tax purposes, whether it's residential, commercial, tangible personal property, or centrally assessed property, which are railroads. And the reason that's important is when you pay your property taxes, the amount of taxes you pay is a relationship between the value of the property that we set and the tax rate set by all your local governments. So the higher the value of the property, the more taxes you pay. The lower the value of the property, the lower amount of taxes you pay. And so the most important thing we want to do is just make sure we get it right. And as I said before, Broward County is a huge place and we appraise more parcels than exist in many of our states. And even though the 240 people that work in our office do a really good job and their assessments are very accurate, mistakes can occur, or maybe people have information about their property that we don't have that could help us bring down their assessed value, which would bring down their property taxes. And let me give you an example. The date that we determine the value of all properties on January 1st of the tax of the year. So when your November tax bill comes out, is what was your property on January 1st? And the way we determine the value of a property is a number of things. If it's residential property that you've owned for some time, we look at all the properties that sold the year before to determine a value for your property. And what'll happen is people will call me and they'll say, Marty, listen, I understand why you valued my property the way that you did, because all these other properties in my neighborhood sold the year before for this amount. But mine's different. It's dilapidated. It has water damage. There's something that made it less valuable than the properties that you used to value my properties. And I'll say, well, show me what you got. and they'll send us insurance information, pictures of the inside, all kinds of information that we can use that can help us try to find a true value for that property so we can actually bring down the assessed value at times, and we can also lower their property taxes. That's the most important thing that we do. We determine a value for all the property in the county, whether it's residential or commercial property. And then what we do is we send that value to your taxing authorities who set a millage rate on that property. And that's how they determine the amount of money that they need to be able to provide great services to the people of our communities. The second thing we do, and this is what I love most about my job, is we give tax saving exemptions to people that qualify. And there are a lot of exemptions under Florida law that people qualify for. The most important one by far is the homestead exemption. If you live here in Broward County or you live in another county, Miami-Dade or Palm Beach County, and it's your primary residence, you're entitled to that very important exemption that does two things. The first thing it does, it takes $50,000 of value off the tax roll. You no longer pay tax. I can save you maybe $1,000 a year, depending on your local millage rates. But most importantly, it really protects you going forward. Because every year, after you have a homestead exemption, the value you're taxing cannot go more than a maximum of 3% a year. And that is so important, especially right now, because you know what's happened to your property value since before COVID. They have skyrocketed in value. They've skyrocketed because people are coming from all over the world. They're coming to Broward County. They're paying top dollar for properties, and that's just driving prices up. So if you know anybody that hasn't filed for homestead exemption and they lived on their property on January 1st, please have them do it by September of this year. So make sure the value of their tax then won't go up more than 3%, and their taxable value won't skyrocket with their market value based on what all these people are paying for properties. Once you get that, there are so many other ways to save money through property tax exemptions. There are exemptions for seniors, for veterans, for people who are visually impaired, for widows, for people with disabilities. There are lots of ways and lots of exemptions that are available. And I always tell everybody, go on our website at bcpa.net, click on exemptions. And if there's something you're not getting, just give us a holler by September 18th of this year or September 17th of this year, and we'll make sure it's reflected in your tax bill. And let me just give you some examples of some exemptions that a lot of people in Broward County utilize. My favorite exemption by far is called the low income senior exemption. It's my favorite because Broward County has about 2 million people that live in our community, and about a third of our population are seniors. And unfortunately, on average, the most impoverished portion of our population are also seniors. And I always believe you can help a senior who's struggling to make ends meet, put a little bit more money in their pocket, they can have a better life. So if you know anybody that was over 65 years of age as of January 1st, they met under last year right about 40,000 bucks. If they don't file income taxes, Social Security doesn't count. If they do, they look at their adjusted gross income tax line of their income tax statement. If it's under that number, they basically get an additional exemption on top of the one they currently get. It could be another 4 or 5, maybe 600 bucks that they can save a year. It's a really great thing. There are full exemptions almost for long-term seniors for the cities and the county. There are full exemptions for 100% totally permanently disabled veterans where they pay no property taxes, or for total permanently disabled first responders. There are just a lot of ways to save money in your property taxes. And I said before, just go on our website at bcpa.net, look at all the ways to save money, all the exemptions available. And if there's something you're not getting or your family's not getting, just give me a call by September 17th and we'll make sure it's applied so it's there in your November tax bill, which would reduce the amount of property taxes you pay. The other thing I wanted to quickly talk about before I talk about something very near and dear to my heart, which is cracking down on title fraud, I want to talk about portability. You know, portability is a fantastic program. It gives people the opportunity to move from one home into another home and not be taxed out of that home. And here's the way it works. When you buy your home, you file for homestead. And when you did that, the Save Our Homes Assessment Clause of the Florida Constitution kicked into place. That said that every year thereafter, the value you're taxing couldn't go up more than a maximum of 3%. So over time, your market value gets very, very high. Your assessed value, though, stays lower because of that cap. You have all this value between your market value and your assessed value you don't pay taxes on. And now if you decide you want to buy any other home of equal or greater value, and you want to make that your new homestead, you can transfer your current value you don't pay taxes on to your new homestead and not pay taxes on it. If you buy a home of lower value, you take a percentage of it, and you can still save thousands of dollars a year in your property taxes. I always tell everybody, if you're going to move somewhere and going to make something new, your home, new homestead, anywhere else in the state of Florida, just go on our website at bcpa.net or our mobile-friendly website, which is web.bcpa.net. Click on Portability Estimator, and if you know the purchase price of your new property, it'll show you what you can port and what your taxes will be with portability and without portability. It can really help you decide if you're going to be able to afford your new home based on the amount of property tax you're going to get to pay as a result of portability. The other thing I wanted to quickly talk about before I answered anybody's questions is something very near and dear to my heart, so important, especially here in South Florida, and it's cracking down on title fraud. Unfortunately, South Florida is the title fraud capital of the world. It's the capital of the world because you have criminals, and that's what they are. And what they do is they walk into the recording division of every county every single day in the state of Florida. They file fake deeds on people's properties, and they take those deeds and they extort people for money, or they mortgage rent or sell the property. They do it all the time. And the reason it's so easy for them is the recording division for every county has a ministerial duty. They have to accept whatever documents filed with them. So you have these criminals, they walk in, they file a fake deed, and they do something nefarious with it. So the first thing we want to do is give the people of Broward County the opportunity to fight the fraud before the fraud occurs. So a few years ago, we came up with a fantastic free program to the public called Owner Alert. It's really a notification program letting you know if somebody changed the title on your property to try to do something bad to you. And here's how anybody can sign up. If you go to our website at bcpa.net, you type in your name, you type in your parcel ID number, which you grab from our website, and you type in your email address. And if we have your email address on file, that's because we had it with an exemption application. You're automatically verified. We know it's you. If we don't have your email address on file, you have to upload your Florida driver's license or Florida ID. If you don't have that, you have to upload a utility bill or something showing that you own the property. And then if any document, legitimate or not, is filed changing ownership, you're notified instantaneously via email, by text message. You can get a hard copy in the mail. We've had almost 330,000 Broward County property owners sign up so far, which is a huge number. I'm so proud of that. So my goal is to get everybody to sign up because they'll protect their most important asset, their home. And something that's really important to note is the legislature passed a very important law that basically said that all the information that our office collects for our Owner Alert program, your email, your phone number, your name, even the fact that you signed up, it's exempt from public disclosure, so nobody can get that information and it can't be requested in a public records request and can only be utilized for one purpose and one purpose only. That's letting you know if there's been a title change to your property. When I started this program, I started getting notifications from residents who would say, Marty, I just got an alert from your office that somebody changed the title to my property, but I didn't do it. And then I got more and more and more. And I realized how big of a deal this was. So I came up with a little bit of a different idea. I wanted to work with law enforcement, build criminal cases, and put the people in jail who are doing this. And so I went to the Department of Revenue, which oversees all the property appraisers throughout the state of Florida. And I told them what I wanted to do. And they basically said, you know what, Marty, you're not law enforcement, but we understand that South Florida is being preyed upon by these criminals. And so we're going to approve your program in your office and make you the guinea pig for the rest of the state to see if it works. I go, great. I decided to call it my Crimes Against Property team. I then went to see the county commission, which funds my budget. And they go, County Commission, the Department of Revenue just approved a new program in my office. I'm calling it my Crimes Against Property team, but I have a big problem. I have no money for it. Would you fund it? And all 9 county commissioners said, absolutely, Marty, will give you whatever you need. I then went to see Sheriff Tony. And I go, Sheriff Tony, I'm super excited. I have a new program in my office, my Crimes Against Property team, but I have a big problem. I'm not law enforcement. You are. I can't issue probable cause affidavits, search warrants. I can't do that job. I can't arrest people. You can. Can we work together? And he said, absolutely, Marty. And he assigned 3 sheriff's detectives to actually work in our office with our office so we can actually do the job of law enforcement. I thought that was going so well. I went to see Harold Pryor, a state attorney. And I go, Harold, I go, you know what? My friend, the sheriff and I, we're working together. And we're going to build these criminal cases. And if we bring you cases you think are prosecutorial, would you prosecute the people that are doing this? And he goes, absolutely, Marty. And he assigned an assistant state attorney to work with our office to prosecute the people that we bring to him. And over the past couple of years now, we've had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of individual criminal cases. We've had numerous arrests, numerous convictions, and we work with the court system to get property back to people in a much more expeditious and cost-efficient manner. I'm actually very proud of the fact that we have a 100% conviction rate against these people who steal people's properties. And just to give you an idea how bad they are, let me give you some examples that just show the extent that they go to try to defraud you and your family of your property. The first case I always like to talk about involved a married couple. It was 2 wives. One of the wives worked for one of our hospital districts. The other wife worked in the real estate industry. The wife that worked in the hospital district would find out when people would pass on. She would then take their confidential information, including their social security numbers, and give it to her wife in the real estate industry, who would find if they had property in Broward County and heirs here. If they had property and no heirs, they file fake deeds on the properties. They sell the properties on Zillow, mortgage the properties, rent the properties. They profit in the amount of millions of dollars. But something I'm very happy about is we found them, we arrested them, we prosecuted them, and even though they're a married couple, they spent their time at different prisons. Another case I like to talk about was one of our larger cases. It's one of our larger cases because it involved multiple properties, but also a lot of people. There's about 8 people that were allegedly involved in this case. And here's what they decided to do. The ringleaders would file quiet title actions in circuit court, basically lawsuits in circuit court, saying this senior or this bank or this person no longer wanted the property. The return of service would go to the guy's buddy who was in a mobile home in, I think, Hillsborough County. And he would say, well, yeah, I represent that senior, that bank, that person. Yeah, they don't want the property anymore. Put in this guy's name or his company's name. They stole dozens of properties all throughout Broward County. Fortunately, we arrested them. We prosecuted them. The ringleader actually got 10 years in prison, followed by 10 years probation, and others got pretty significant prison terms as well. People always ask me a few things about title fraud. They always tell me, Marty, Who are the people that do this? What kind of technology they use? Who are the victims? And what are the real prison sentences that most of them are getting? But when it comes to who does this, just about everybody does it. All different races, religions, national origins, people of high net worth, people of low net worth, people of all different occupations. To give you an idea, we arrested and she took a plea, a lawyer who stole a property in Cooper City. People always also ask me, oh, and I was just going to say, and the only common denominator that we found is that the people that do this are very smart people. They come up with very smart schemes and they pick on our most vulnerable residents the most. The second thing people ask me is what kind of technology they use. Well, here's a very interesting thing. I'm going to give you a case about a technology uh, about where this is actually going right now. Um, Generally, the technology is very primitive. It is, excuse me for 1 second. Hey, Scotty, can you please shut the door? Sorry about that. I couldn't hear for a second. So I'm going to tell you where it is right now. Generally, the technology is very primitive. You have a person walk into the recording division, file a fake deed. You have a courier file a fake deed. We even had a man on death row in Georgia have a courier file a fake deed in a property in Broward County. We didn't prosecute him because he had other issues going on in Georgia, but that's how unsophisticated it generally is to be able to do this crime. But the technology now is getting much more sophisticated. And here's a current criminal case that we have that really shows that. There was a title company that got a call, and they got a call from this sweet lady who basically said, you know what? I own this property in Hollandale Beach. I've had it just about my entire life. But you know what, though? I need to sell it. I need to sell it because I want to move to Michigan, be with my grandkids, and I want to be able to have money so I can actually afford to live. And the title company said, sure, we'll sell it to you. Show us you own it. And she actually sent them over all kinds of legitimate documentation showing she owns the property. But the title company was smart. And they said, we have to meet you in person. And said, well, I can't meet you in person, but I can do it over Zoom. And they said, okay, great. So the computer screens opened up. On one side of the screen, you had the title company. The other side of the screen on the Zoom meeting, you had this sweet senior sitting at her dining room table, drinking coffee or tea, talking about how much she loves her grandkids, how much she can't wait to retire there to be with them and enjoy her golden years, but she can't do it without selling this property in Hollandale Beach. She's so thankful the title company's going to sell it for her. Well, it just so happens that every 30 seconds, the same thing would occur. She would pick up her coffee or tea, and she would do this with her hand, and she put it down. 30 seconds later, to the millisecond, she'd pick it up and do this with her hand. And and they got a little suspicious, so they sent it to our office. And we opened up, of course, an investigation. And it turned out that that sweet senior sitting at our dining room table talking about how much she loves her grandkids, drinking coffee or tea was artificial intelligence. That's how sophisticated some of these criminals are getting. So I always tell people, especially in the real estate industry, if it looks too good to be true, it probably is, and scrutinize everything. The other thing people ask me is, who are the victims? Well, the victims are just about everybody. Just like the people who commit the crimes, they're all different races, religions, national origins, people of all different occupations. But the vast majority of victims are our most vulnerable populations. I think about 70% of our victims are seniors. They love to pick on people with disabilities. They really love to pick on people that don't speak English as their first language because they think they can better get away with it with a person that doesn't speak English as their first language. And I'm just going to give you one example of one of our most recent cases. There hasn't yet been a conviction, but I believe there will be. That really is kind of like my guiding light, why this is so important. There was a senior that lived in Plantation, and the senior was walking around the street and he fell and he hurt himself. And his family, who lived out of state, wanted to get him in-home care to basically rehabilitate him throughout the daytime, not at nighttime, just throughout the day. So they contracted with a home healthcare company to provide a home healthcare aide to him. The home healthcare aide came to the home, but then the family couldn't understand why they would call at night and she would pick up the phone. The neighbors couldn't understand why the car was parked there all the time. Then once he was actually wandering around the neighborhood with his walker, and he was actually found by a neighbor who was very disoriented. They actually called the Department of Children and Families, who investigated a little bit, and they thought that something was off, so they contacted our office, and we looked into it. And it turned out that here's what I think the facts are going to show in court. They're going to show that as soon as the home healthcare company assigned her to the home, she then apparently befriended the senior, and she was able to put her name on the senior's bank account. She then stole, allegedly, $270,000 of his money, all of the money he's accumulated throughout his entire life. She also was able to deed his home over to herself, and she even rented out a portion of the home to somebody else and was profiting that way. She's been arrested. She'll have her day in court. I think she's going to be convicted. I think the evidence is overwhelming. And if she is convicted, she should go to jail for a long time for what she allegedly did. The last thing people ask me is what kind of prison sentences are they getting? Well, they're getting pretty long. I told you about the guy that got 10 years. We had another one recently where a man stole a senior's home in Tamarack. He got 7 years. But our biggest, longest prison sentence happened over the summer. Over the summer, there was a man who decided to have a jury hear his case. And he was convicted for stealing a senior's home in Tamarack as well. And afterwards, then he walked up to the judge and he goes, "Well, Your Honor, I was just convicted. When do I come back for my sentencing hearing?" And the judge goes, "Well, you have about 5 minutes." And he goes, "As a matter of fact, you don't have that." And he gave him 15 years. And I think that's a great thing because the people that do this, as I said before, they pick on our most vulnerable people. They hurt people. Not only do they steal their homes, but they steal their livelihoods and they really, really ruin families. And so I want all of these people to know that if you're going to try to commit this crime in Broward County, we're going to work exceptionally hard to make sure you spend a long time in prison because that's where you deserve to be. And also, I hope that everybody here signs up for our owner alert program. If you haven't signed up, please sign up. If you know a friend that hasn't signed up, have them sign up. If your family member hasn't signed up, sign up. It's just so important to protect your most important asset. With that said, I've had like 5 cups of coffee, 2 Red Bulls, and a Diet Coke. I am super wired and super happy. But Alexa, I can go on and on forever, but I'd rather just answer any questions that anybody has.
Okay, giving everyone an opportunity. If you have any questions, feel free to go ahead and type them in the chat. I haven't seen any as yet, but in listening to the various stories, I actually have a question. What
Of course.
cities are you seeing the highest incidences of this homeowner fraud?
So it happens everywhere. We've actually had a case in every single city but Lazy Lake. Now, Lazy Lake, though, for everybody here who doesn't know this, only has about 16 homes. So that's it's the smallest city in Broward, but every other city we see it. But where you see it the most are the cities with the biggest senior and vulnerable populations. So Tamarack is like a hotbed of this. You see it a lot there because they have a huge senior population. In areas of Fort Lauderdale, where you have lots of low-income people living, you see it there as well. There was a man who is such a nice guy. He was a senior in a wheelchair that lived actually off Sistrunk Boulevard. I think he was 99, and he's passed away now. But he heard some commotion in his living room, got in his wheelchair, rolled out there, and there was actually a realtor there trying to show his house to somebody in the house to try to sell the property because there was a fake deed that was stolen on, and they had hired the realtor. She was innocent, but they hired the realtor to sell the house. So we see most of these in our most vulnerable communities, if that makes sense. And that's a very upsetting thing to me. But we have seen it everywhere, though. There have been affluent people with big homes where their homes been stolen, but they think they can get away with it more by picking on people who are in our vulnerable communities. So, great question.
All right, so a question I'm seeing here, are other Florida counties utilizing your alert system, or is it still in the pilot stage?
Such a great question. So I'm really, really excited about our owner alert program. It's been so successful that 2 years ago, the Florida legislature actually passed a law that the governor enthusiastically signed that basically required every single county in the state of Florida to also have an owner alert program. And I think it's a great thing. The only difference is who hosts it. So it's hosted by property appraisers and some it's hosted by clerk of courts. So in Broward, I host it. In Palm Beach County, though, or Miami-Dade County, the clerk of court hosts it, and Alachua County is the property appraiser. So it kind of all depends, but everybody, no matter where you live, you can actually go on there and sign up in your respective county. Just like here, your information is protected from public disclosure, and it's there really to help you and protect you.
Is there some
The
kind of central database that you guys keep where, for those people who have been found to commit any of these fraudulent acts that can be shared kind of across the counties?
So we actually do work with other counties when it comes to cracking down on title fraud. We are a little bit different in Broward County, where I'm the only property appraiser's office, and there's no clerk's office that actually has a crimes against property division. Actually, I think Palm Beach County is creating one, but we're under their previous clerk, who's now the administrator of Palm Beach County, is the greatest guy ever. His name's Joe Abruzzo. If you live in Palm Beach County, you have a fantastic administrator. He's my best friend. But he was a clerk of court beforehand, and he actually had started doing one, which is great. I think the new clerk has improved, has worked on it as well. But aside from that, we're the only ones that actually do a crimes against property thing. And one reason being is because it's not very easy to set something like this up. And the only way that you can actually make it successful is when you have a whole lot of buy-in. And what I always tell everybody is the reason it works so well in Broward County is because all of us work together. It's very easy to get elected to these jobs and kind of stay in your little silo and not go out and reach out to others to help you. But in Broward County, I couldn't do it if the county commission didn't fund it. I couldn't do it if Sheriff Tony wasn't such a great partner with us in helping us arrest people. And I definitely couldn't do it if Harold Pryor wasn't such a great partner in prosecuting people. Not every single county has the same type of relationship in their elected officials as we do here. And I think that kind of holds it off a little bit. But I am trying to work to try to get other counties to do it as well.
Mm. How is the description of a property determined?
So when you say the description of a property, you mean for tax purposes? Is that kind of what you mean?
I
I can
believe so.
explain it that way. Okay.
Teresa, if you want to provide a little bit more information, but you can go ahead and answer that in that term. She said
Of
yes.
course. So what occurs is somebody will file a deed on a property and it has a legal description in there. And so what will happen is the deed, which isn't filed with our office, is filed with county recording. They'll then provide it to our office. And then we'll actually, when you go on our website, you'll see a shorthanded version of the legal description. That's how we determine basically directly from the deed. Then what we do is we physically inspect every single property once every 4 years. And all throughout the year, we're looking at every property through satellite imagery and kind of updating our records as that goes through. And so legal descriptions will change all the time. For example, people will come in, they'll have a couple parcels, for example, and they'll want to combine them. And so we're constantly doing that, but it's always based on the data, the deeds that we have. I hope that helps. But I always tell everybody if there's a mistake with your legal description, or if you have a concern, just reach out to me. Let's go through it together so we can make sure it's correct.
Okay. Does anyone have any additional questions for Marty?
And
Someone said, who knew things were that exciting in the property appraiser's office?
thank you. I love it. Well, you know what's so interesting? I'll tell you what I think is really neat. When you get elected to these jobs, you have the jobs you need to do under the law. You're required to determine the value of property. I'm required to give tax saving exemptions. Those things we can do. But if the law doesn't prohibit us from doing something good for the public, we can do it. And so when you get elected to these jobs, if you think there's something that you can do that improves things for Broward County, you can do it. And so for me, that was, of course, trying to crack down on people who steal properties to try to give that extra little protection to people. And you can do things of that nature. And so that's what actually makes it kind of exciting is you can actually do additional things as long as you're not prohibited by law from doing it. And I love the fact that that's the case. That's awesome. I was going to tell you a funny little story about the legal description. So when I was elected property appraiser, it was in November of 2016. I was taking office in January of 2017. Between that time, I actually bought a home and I got cheap. I decided to do my legal description and my deed by myself. And I did it and I messed up the legal description. And I got a call from Lori Parrish, our previous property appraiser, and she
Mhm.
goes, "Hey, Marty, we just got a copy of the deed that you decided to file on your own. And here's the thing, you messed up the legal description. So you're not yet property appraiser, but you've been elected property appraiser, but you're gonna have to do the walk of shame, come through our office and sit down with our staff and fix it." And so I did. And so that's kind of like, so I realized I will never do that on my own again. I always will hire a lawyer to do it. But with that said, does anyone else have any other questions? You guys
Yeah,
are
there
all
are a few more that just popped in. So one of them is
course.
outside of signing up for the owner alert, are there steps a homeowner can take to proactively prevent fraudulent activity?
Sure. One thing you can do, just go on our website at bcpa.net. So what will happen is if you go to our website at bcpa.net or web.bcpa.net, what you can do one, you can sign up for owner alert. If not, you can always check your property. And if you haven't signed up for owner alert and something very legitimate comes through that's a legitimate looking deed, we're probably going to update the tax roll. And if you go on there and you see that there's somebody else that's the owner of the property that's not you and it's your property, then you can call us. We can get on top of it. We can fix it. That's very, very important. Also, there are private companies like Title Lock, for example, things of that nature that sometimes people utilize to give them an extra sense of security as well. And right now, those are really the only ways of doing it. It's just kind of being vigilant. But owner alert is very good. You get, like I said, you get a text message, goes right to your phone, an email. It's pretty much right when that deed is filed. And that's the best way to protect yourself.
Are taxes for single family homes more than townhomes?
It depends. So, so the way the Florida tax system is set up, your amount of taxes is based on a lot of different things. First, it's based on the value of the property, less your exemptions. So, and it also depends on what city you live in, who determine the millage rates for your property, which can be higher or lower. And I'll just give you an example. A longtime homeowner, take my dad for example. He's lived in the town of Davie, his since probably like 1970, and it has been his homestead since that time. And as a result of that, the value he's taxed on can't go more than 3%. So over time, his market value is really, really high, but his assessed value is very, very low. Now, before I had my single family home, I was in a townhouse actually in the town of Davie as well. But I bought my home, of course, way after my dad bought his home. And as a result of that, his my purchase price was higher than his assessed value. So
Mhm.
actually, my taxes were much higher than my dad, even though he had this very large home in the town of Davie. Also, it depends. Somebody could be a disabled veteran. They could be a long-term senior. It just all depends. It also depends on the location. For example, a townhouse on the intercoastal in Fort Lauderdale is probably going to have likely a higher tax bill than a single family home in, let's say, Weston. So it all depends on the specific property, where you're located, and a whole lot of different factors. What I always tell everybody, if you have, if you are want to know the value of any property in the county, just go to our website at bcpa.net. If you're thinking about moving to a property, we have a tax estimator and a portability estimator, and that can give you kind of a really good idea. And also use me as a resource. If there's any property you're interested in, just email me and I can really give you the details about that property. Great
Okay,
question.
yeah, that was a really good one. Other than the certificate of disability from the VA, what other documents are needed for the veteran's disability exemption?
So there are a few documents. So there are three different veterans exemptions. The first one is the biggest. It's 100% totally permanently disabled veteran exemption. And that means you pay no property taxes. So the most important thing is you have to get 100% designation from the VA, but it also has to say you're totally permanently disabled. And that's really the key. It's almost like two parts of it. And I'll tell you why. Under Florida law, if somebody's 100% disabled and they have that designation, but they're not totally permanently disabled, they could actually, their disability can I believe they can get down to 90, 80, they can try to rehabilitate themselves. But if they're totally permanently disabled, they'll be 100% disabled forever. And so under Florida law, the letter has to say those two things, and that's really what we need from the VA in order to qualify for the 100%. Now, if you're not 100% totally permanently disabled, a veteran, but you're still a disabled veteran that's service connected, then you provide us a letter and we can give you a smaller exemption. It's a $5,000 value exemption. That doesn't mean you save $5,000. It just means we take $5,000 off the tax roll. It can save you a few $100 a year. And then there's one called the Combat Disabled Veterans Exemption. And what that basically means, if you are not 100% disabled, but you're combat disabled and you're over 65 years of age as of January 1st, you get a percentage reduction in your tax in your exemption or in your assessed value based on your in your taxes based on your disability percentage. So if you're 90% disabled, it's a 90% reduction in your taxes. 80%, 80%, 50%, 50%. But it's all based on that letter that comes from the VA. And what I
Okay.
always tell everybody too is if you go on our website at bcpa.net, you can click on exemptions and then click on any exemption. It'll tell you all about it and it'll tell you all the documents required for you to be able to qualify for that exemption. And that is the best way to look at it.
Okay, I'm not seeing any additional questions in the chat. Last call, anybody, while we have Marty here, who's ready and willing to answer any of your property appraiser questions. Feel
Well,
free to go ahead and do it now.
I have to tell you, I've enjoyed this so much. I just appreciate everybody hanging out with me at their lunch break. As I said before, I love Broward County. I appreciate everything that you all do. We live in the greatest county in the world. And and I just feel very, very blessed, that there are so many people in Broward County working hard every single day, every single employee to make lives better for our 2 million residents. And so thank you all for what you do.
Thank you so much, Marty. I don't see any additional questions. So thank you all very much for attending today's Lunch and Learn. With the Property Appraiser's Office, we appreciate all the amazing knowledge that you provided us with. And for the rest of you guys who attended, if you know of anyone who may be interested in the subject matter that was discussed in today's session, feel free to go ahead and share the information with them. Share the link once it's posted on our YouTube channel. Thank you guys for lunching and learning with us. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thanks, Alexa. Thanks so much.